There's 4. So there's a secure attachment, which means that you're very secure in your relationship. You don't get too anxious. You don't be too avoidant. You're okay with some emotional distress because you know how to handle it.
That's where the trauma, I guess you would say, because we'd already discovered that my attachment style is a little traumatized.
Sometimes it's just simple affection. Sometimes it's simple affirmations. Look, I see, or validation. I see what you're doing. I respect it. Thank you. Giving your partner a thank you. Because sometimes we're not getting that thank you. And it's just like, well, do you see all the stuff I'm doing? Can we come up with a method so that both of our needs are met? And there's something that I tell my clients and patients all the time. Use safe words, right? A safe word would be like a neutral word that you say when things feel like too hot in the moment. And you might say something like umbrella. And instead of saying like, hey, I don't want to talk right now, because that makes someone feel shunned or it makes someone feel unseen. When you say something like umbrella, y'all both have already agreed, like umbrella means this is getting nowhere and we're going to come back and reconvene in 30 minutes.
Hey, thank God for another day. Hey, I know we could be another way. Hey, pray, thank God for another day. Hey, I know we could be another way.
Hey, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 yams in my bank account.
Is your elbows eased up? They look a little shiny, so I think you might be all right. Yeah, you good. Okay, you good. Yeah, you good.
Welcome. If you don't know where you just entered, you've entered the safe space where influencers decompress, have fun, and guess what?
JessAsk.
You know, it's another one.
It's
another week, and it's another Desiree.
Hey.
Desiree.
Hey.
Desiree.
Yo, man. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of JessAsk, the podcast.
Girl, this episode 100 and something.
It's 100 and some. You hear me?
It's 100 and something. Okay.
Woo!
Bless God for the open. Oh my God.
100 and something.
100 and something.
Man, God is good
all the time.
God is good. I think somebody asked, how do we stay focused to get there? And honestly, I don't even think I thought about it. Like, I didn't think about 100 at 20 or 30. I was just like, hey, let me focus on what we got right here, so I don't drop it.
We didn't think about 100 until we sat down and planned.
For real.
Like, that's what really, like, and it's not even the planning on how we're strategic about how we're doing the episodes, but really we took time off, y'all. Like, literally we recorded, we batch record. That is no secret. But we batch record enough episodes to where we could have a full break in July of last year. And so when we took that break, we ended our break with a retreat, right? And I for any influencer, creative, you need a break. Your brain is doing so much at a time, like, you need a break. And I promise you, my guest would probably say the same thing, because her line of work is take some time for you, okay?
Yeah.
But you really need to give yourself time to breathe, give yourself your mind to breathe, and you're going to come back, like, when I say full, we were ready to go after that trip, especially with Auntie Pam. Shout out to Auntie Pam.
I love Auntie Pam.
We love you, Auntie Pam.
I'm not even going to lie. The smallest, I love how intentional she was with the smallest things.
The smallest things.
Like, hey, I like fancy coffee, but I'm not finna pay $5, $6, $17 every day for fancy coffee. So I'm going to get fancy coffee at home. And that blessed me so good.
And that you started doing.
I sure did. I went and got me some stuff
it.
to make me some fancy coffee at home. Shoot.
It still tickle me that you call it fancy coffee.
It is fancy coffee. You know, the whipped cream and all the syrup and all that stuff. That's fancy coffee. You know, regular coffee is just a little cream.
Yeah, you right.
Oh, okay.
But if you know how to make coffee right, you will have it fancy all the time, where you just have creamer and sugar, or you have the whipped cream. I don't need all that whipped cream and stuff in my coffee.
That's fancy coffee.
Yeah, they can keep that.
Yes, ma'am.
Y'all, this is going to be a good episode. I'm really excited. Listen, I want to say happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. We know this is Mother's Day weekend, and so really, really super excited about Mother's Day. Speaking of Mother's Day and my Auntie Pam has a sister who happens to be my mother.
Her mama.
And who happens to be the community highlight for the day. So mama, you know I
I love you. You know I love you. You know I love you, mama. That's
literally.
Good. Yeah.
And not only, I just heard the Lord say, not only my mama, but Desiree got a mama.
I do got a mama. I love my mama too.
What's your mama name, Desiree?
Her name is Willie Faye Greenwood.
Uh-huh.
And I love her.
And I dare not say my mama full name.
Oh.
I'm just, I dare not. I love mama. You know who you are. I don't even, Nancy. Mm-hmm. That's what we call her. And that's what she is, my phone. Nancy, mommy. And I'm going to give you a moment to shout out your mama too, Desiree. Yeah. Mama, I love you so much. You are literally the queen of my heart. I embody what you embody. You really spat me out. And so I just thank God for you. I thank God that he connected me and assigned me to your DNA. I'm so grateful and honored that that you still see something special to me to even just continue to do relationships with me, to relationship and life with me. People choose to just disregard. They don't care about blood or anything like that. I just thank God that you keep choosing me, that you keep choosing to enhance our relationship, that you keep choosing to talk to me, that you keep choosing just to be my mom. It's just such an honor to call you my mom. You are a full woman of God. You are a prophet. You are thebomb.com. You are that chick. And so I want to tell you on today, happy Mother's Day, mommy. I love you.
Happy Mother's Day.
Okay, Desiree.
Okay, let me see.
Can you there you go.
You know, technology. We learning things, right? Ha! But I just want to say, I think within the last couple of years, I've been able to tell my mom, thank you. Like she was, I've said this before, she was rough, okay? Hard, like, whoo, Jesus. But, you know, as I got older, I didn't understand then, but as I got older, I can appreciate it because it has definitely helped build some of the character that I have now. And once I began to understand who she was and the journey that she had taken, I could definitely extend the grace. Like it's easier to extend grace, right? And so I have been awarded the privilege just to watch her grow as a woman. You know, these last few years, like from, you know, she actually listens to things that I share with her, even down from like budgeting. Like my mom has a budget now. She has a money system, and that within itself is a testimony of God's goodness, you know. And so I just want to tell my mommy, Willie Faye Greenwood, how proud I am of you for growing, how proud I am for you for stepping out of what has been comfortable for you to just be able to experience the fullness of what God has for you. And this is not the beginning. As you continue to give God your yes, he's going to continue to meet you at every step of the way. And so I just want to say happy Mother's Day to my mom, and also happy Mother's Day to all the wonderful mommies out there.
All of them. If you was a mom, you're doing a good job, okay? Because some of us... Well, no, shout out to me. I'm a dog mom.
Oh, okay.
Oh, don't do that.
Roof.
Don't. Anyway, Amore loves me.
She does.
Anyway.
You're a great dog mommy, by the way.
Baby, clock it.
Clock it.
Speaking of mothers, we do have, our guest is a mom. And baby, she's a good mother. She's a great mother. I love how she talks about Brad. He just walked in the building. Hey, Brad. But speaking of mothers, we have a great guest on today that we might talk a little bit about motherhood, but let me tell you the tea that she's gonna bring today, okay? Today, our special guest is not only a trauma recovering coach, but she is a relationship coach. And y'all know lately, I don't know what this relationship conversation been about. Yeah. And it's, you know what? It's not just, you know, the intimate relationships. We can talk about relationships with mom, relationship with parents, stuff like that. We think about so one-sided when it comes to relationship, but I love that she does trauma and relationship because in her slogan, she believes that trauma keeps us from growing and being in healthy relationships. So I'm really super excited. I'm also excited because this is my sis. I met her in Morning Meetup. Well, actually, I met her at the podcast summit, met in Morning Meetup, and now we just locked in, ain't no switching up. You know what I'm saying? So I introduce to some and present to others my girl, Sia Edwards Wiggins.
Hey.
Girl, I was just gonna skip the Wiggins, girl. When y'all be having these hashtag names.
Listen, I need to do my husband some justice, okay? Because we actually are making 10 years this year.
Wow.
And I, Lord forgive me, I have yet to change my stuff with the Social Security Department, okay? So, I know.
What?
We
So
listen
if
and
he
we
ever watches
we
this
we listen and
episode,
we don't judge.
We,
here we go.
for real, that's right. We listen
And we don't
and we don't judge. Okay, but
Listen,
no,
my
but you
husband and
married
God
for
knows my
10
heart.
years. Yeah, you've been
Well,
married
this
for
year in
10
June.
years.
Wow.
Listen, it feels like a lot when you have to go to the Social Security office and then change all your bank cards and all the things, right? They need to make it so that it's just one click of a button. And you know what? They might now. It's just when I got married, it was just like I got to do all of this. Yeah, nah. Like he knows who he's married to.
Listen,
Okay.
because it does take it. It's already work to marry you. Now you want me to go down to the road to stand in that line for 3 hours to change my name when you know you married me. I get it. I get it. But that's what they like.
I know.
That's what they
I'm
like.
coming. We got a
I
lifetime to do it. That's how I think.
We locked in anyway, regardless.
listen, because I'm still your wife. I'm still your
that
wife. You
that
claim
part.
you claim his last name though.
I do. I do. So like if I'm speaking to people, I'll say like Edwards Wiggins, or I just like cut the Edwards and just say Wiggins. But because professionally I've been this way prior to marrying him, like everybody knows me as Edwards, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a slow transition.
It's a,
Slow.
he's a confident man. Listen, that speaks to his confidence though too. Because so I'm gonna tell you, it might not be funny to y'all, but it was funny to me. So I was talking to someone, right? And we were talking about marriage or whatever. And I was just like, I don't know if I would want to change my name. Just hypothetically speaking, I go by Jessica S. Smith, and that's a brand now. I was just saying.
Yeah, that's real.
I was just bringing it up. I was like, what if I chose not to, take my husband's last name? And the response I got was, well, what's the point in getting married? I said, oop. Oh, we just get married because I'm changing my last name or But anyway, let's that's a fun take. That's a fun
I'm so tickled.
The Lord's gonna bless me. I would willingly change my name, good man and all. You know what I'm saying? I want that name. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, Sia, how you doing, sis? It's been a minute since I talked to you.
I know. I mean, oh my gosh. So, as you said, I am a mother, right? So, I've been doing motherly things, which feels like it just consumes everything, but I've been doing blessed, right? I think since we last spoke, I've actually been walking more in embracing motherhood because people come to me today and still be like, I can't believe you're a mother. Because if you knew me, I was the one that said, actually, I never wanted any kids. So, I gave my husband kids. All right. Yeah. I didn't want no kids. I was very selfish. And then there's still a part of me that's a little selfish because it comes with a lot of responsibility. Like you're a dog mom, right?
Yeah.
The responsibility it comes with when you're caring for another, you're giving somebody else a portion of your life. And this is all relationships. So to have like 3 dependents, who's just like really depending on me, I feel like when we last met, I was in this battle of like, hey, I still want self-identity, but I still want to show up for my kids. And I think I spent like the last year trying to balance the two. So that's what's been going on, like really showing up to be a mother authentically and genuinely, but then still capturing who I am, Sia, as just Sia and nothing else. So
I think that's so good because we do have a lot of creators, influencers, entrepreneurs that watch the episode, and I think this is a great segue into the balance of motherhood and what you know yourself to be as an individual. How do you balance it? What have you learned in this process?
That's such a good question. I feel like, and I mean, everybody's story is really unique, right? Like I said, when I got pregnant, we were actually trying for a while. And because I couldn't be pregnant or I couldn't conceive, I was just like, look, see, I told you I didn't want no kids. And then once we stopped trying, we had kids. And at the time, my husband was like an over-the-road truck driver. And so me and motherhood just didn't click right away.
Yeah.
Actually, I would say to some that I feel like I might have had some postpartum depression and I didn't even know it, right? It's funny because like I was a therapist, but I'm just like,
Right.
is this depression? Right? Is this what my clients go through? And so it actually took me a long time to walk into motherhood. Like I really felt like with my firstborn, I was just making sure she stayed alive. Like I had love for her, but I couldn't really grasp the concept that like this is my baby. Right. And then I had my second, right, back to back.
Yeah.
And I remember bawling, right? And I remember bawling because my firstborn, I was just like, well, I feel like I didn't have enough time to even really create this bond with her. And then I felt like my secondborn is just like, well, how am I going to manage the two? Because my husband is like away on the road a lot. And
Yeah.
that's when I was just like, oh, see, I knew motherhood wasn't for me. And it wasn't until I think I bumped into a friend and she had twins around this, my best friend actually, she had twins around the same time I had the end of my first pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
And so we would bond a lot. And she was telling me like, though I'm a therapist, like I tried to separate my life from being a therapist. Though I'm a therapist, it's really easy for you to kind of get really involved in just helping others and not helping yourself. It's just like you're not helping yourself. Like you're not showing up for yourself. You're not doing anything for yourself. Right. So I really applaud her because there would be times where she'd be like, look, leave your daughter here. I know you're pregnant, but go do something. And I think
Yeah.
it wasn't until I gave myself the grace and the opportunity to be like, look, that baby's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
You can go get your nails done, go take yourself out to eat, go do something. It wasn't until somebody had to tap me on the shoulder and say that I realized like it's okay. Like even if I step away from my daughter for a little bit, or my son or my other daughter, I'm still their mother while I'm away. And I think we get so fused in the ideal of we have to be this one thing at all times. And that's not how life works.
Yeah.
So
I think that's so good. Thank you for so much for being transparent. That's one thing I love about talking to therapists. I'm
Yes.
learning even with my therapist. She one of the tactics that they use is relatability, and
mhm.
that's that. Sometimes you be like, oh well, you got problems too. And go to your therapist sessions. Go to your therapist session. Pay them folks, talk to them, and they gonna help you out. Okay. Anyway, that was a little shameless plug. Okay, so curiosity struck when you were bringing up your first two, right? So even in the midst of that, you go from not saying that you're not going to do that you're not interested in being a mother, and you say, hey, I get married. Obviously, your husband wanted kids. You say, okay, I'll give it to you. We trying, it doesn't work out, and then it works out. Did you ever have a spite in your heart towards your kids develop because it wasn't really what you wanted?
Not towards him. Interestingly enough, and I talk about this sometimes too. Like it was towards him, like my husband. It was just like, look, I gave you these kids, but you're not here, and I don't know how to do this by myself, right?
Talk
And
about it.
obviously, it didn't click for me, right? Because obviously he's not there. He wasn't not there by choice. It was just like, well, this is my occupation. Like you knew what it was when we did this. And for me, I think I was just so closed off, as many people are, to what you really want. And then when you get it, it's like, is this what I really want? Right. And I don't think it was a spite. It was just more so I couldn't relate to him being able to be away and getting a break and me like here all the time with these kids. Right.
See, are you talking real good? Because when I I got a lot of mothers in my community, right? That's our age, right? And the main thing that they bring up, and I think this even segues into your profession, like where you are. So I think you're about to help a lot of people out right now. The main thing that I hear is he gets to do what he wants to do. I don't. I'm the one who has to take care of the kids. I'm the one who has to just be 10 toes down, right? And I think that even disrupts that ends to me. This is me being a single person with no actual human kids. I don't have human kids. I have a dog. But in my mind, it almost sets up for failure for the marriage, because when you have this outlook of, okay, we birthed this child together, like we made this child together, and I'm the one that's taking care of this child. I'm being mother all the time while you get to choose when you be father or whatever. Not saying that every man is like that, but this is what I'm hearing. What is your response to that? Like, how would you encourage that relationship? Because that could be interruption in a marriage versus a blessing. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
No, it does. I think it's actually really important to even have these conversations before you conceive. And that's something I didn't really think about having, right? But
Yeah.
obviously, in my career, as I'm servicing more mothers, or I should say earlier in my career, as I started to service more mothers, I realized like, well, we weren't having these candid conversations. It's just like, oh, you want to build a family? All right, cool. Let's do what we got to do. I think it's important to address the like it's called unspoken rules, right? When you have a relationship, there are some things that you just expect to happen, but it's sometimes unbalanced because that understanding is not there with the other person, right? So as a mother, you might think like, all right, my husband is here, or my partner is here, depending on the situation, right? And I'm expecting them to show up as much as I show up. But
Mm-hmm.
for that other person, it's like, well, I seen it done this way in my family. I don't have that same expectation, but those things are not unspoken about or
Mm-hmm.
spoken about. They're unspoken rules, right? And so that's where we start creating these tips where it's just like, well, how come you going out with the boys, but I'm still here? How
Yeah.
come I don't get as much time away, but I still got to do all these responsibilities? I do think it's something as simple as having a conversation, but then also agreeing on agreeing on what it's going to look like moving forward. And it's in that agreement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there are some people who are just like, no, I don't actually have a friend who's just like, no, I don't expect him to do none of that. That's not his role, right? And so it comes down to traditional roles too, and what the relationship look like, what that person has been through experience wise, what their expectation is, what they pulled in from the values of their family of origin. Like all of it is tied together, but it's not until you really sit down and have that solid conversation to be like, look, once we have this kid or these children, this is what I really expect from you. And this is what I think I'm going to need in return as well. And have that just that bond and that time to really co-create your family. Like, because you can build by, obviously you lay down, do what you got to do, but
Yeah.
then what happens after that?
Yeah, that is so good. And I think that even what you just said is so powerful, just being able to have a conversation prior to get into the nitty gritty. Like, let me ask you a two-part question. At what point do you supposed to have that question before or after you get married? Right, like that type of detailed conversation. And what happens when my mind changes in the marriage about
Mm,
how do I address my partner in that meaning, not necessarily about the marriage, but I came in one way thinking I want to do something because that's what I learned in my household. But now that I'm developing in the woman, now I'm developing, let's talk about as a woman because this is Mother's Day. I'm
mm,
developing as this woman and I don't think I want to do it this way anymore. Like I don't think this is working out for the condition of our not only just our relationship but our household.
mm. So actually, I'm a firm believer that it's never too deep for the intro, right? People be
Mm,
like, I'm not having that conversation on the first date. I think if your goal is to really have this and build with a person, maybe first, second date, you're talking about, okay, what does a family structure look like for you? What was it like in your household? Do you have those same expectations, right? And this is if you're really trying to build with a person.
mhm,
Now, yeah, we'll have those situations where we're now in the relationship. We might have a family and we're like, wow, this isn't really serving me anymore. I actually think it's time for you to sit down with your partner and again, another conversation, but understand that your whole entire relationship is a system, right? And systems are built on patterns. So those patterns that you've had from the beginning to this point is kind of a routine that your body falls into. And if you're expecting your partner to kind of just fall into a new routine that hasn't been built up, it's kind of going to fail. I think for some of us too, we have to look at our environment. What is making us feel like this isn't working? Because is it really not working, or is it something that you're lacking in yourself that's not making it work? Because
mhm,
oftentimes we kind of push the responsibility onto somebody else, where we're just like, you know what, I thought I wanted this, but it's not working. Well, it might not be working because you actually don't have like a sense of awareness of how or what the part you play in the relationship is, especially when you are mothering,
mhm,
right? Because it can become too overwhelming. And we do see mothers who walk away, from their families. Like I'm actually my it's okay for me to say this, but like my mother's mother did that, right? So
mm,
to this day, I don't even know my grandmother, right? And it's important for us to see like, okay, is there something in the relationship that I missed
mm.
that maybe if I had more of it, this would feel more manageable or feel less overwhelming? Sometimes it's just simple affection. Sometimes it's simple affirmations. Look, I see, or validation. I see what you're doing. I respect it. Thank you. Giving your partner a thank you. Because sometimes we're not getting that thank you. And it's just like, well, do you see all the stuff I'm doing? Does it
Mm.
matter to you? because we need that validation. We need that affirmation sometimes to just know that, okay, keep doing what you're doing. And it's not just like, because we'll have these situations where just like we'll point out what's not happening, right? Instead of
Yeah.
what is happening. And that's that positive praise that keeps the behaviors going. So as a mother, and you're like, well, I can't do this anymore. Well, what's happening? Like really sitting down to assess. And that's when a therapist or a coach comes in too, because there's some things that you can't see because you're already in it that
Yeah.
somebody else might be able to see.
Yeah, that's so good. When you speak of the affirmations and the language and stuff like that, it makes me think about the 5 love language. You know, people throw that around. I don't mean to just say like throw it, but people literally always talking about, what's your love language? Oh, my love language is. I'm one of them, Brad. I be like, oh my God, it's my love language.
Listen,
I'm
I heard
sorry.
people say cooking is a love language. And I would just be cringing. I'd be like, no, it's not.
I'm sorry. We gotta. Oh my gosh, I think I'm hilarious. Okay. So when you speak of that, right? It made me, excuse me, it made me think about like, okay, so the timing of the affirmation, right?
Mhm.
What's the appropriate time for the affirmation? Because this is my thought process here. You can tell me if I'm right or wrong. If I'm arguing with you and then I'm begging you for something, I think for me, let's just talk about Jessica, okay? If I'm in an argument with somebody I think I like, and I'm talking to you, and I don't want to say arguing, but I'm in a heightened discussion, and I'm saying, I need this and I need this, and that's the only time you get it, I get it, it's going to frustrate me, and it's going to make me feel like that's not how you feel about me in real life. Am I inaccurate in feeling like that? And if that's true, at what point should someone affirm or give you those affirmations? What would be a good point for that to happen?
I'm gonna challenge you a little bit, right? Because
Ooh,
we'll
not
say
challenge
like
me.
we'll say like I want this thing, and then when we get it, is I think I said this earlier. It's like this is not really what I want, and I do understand where you're coming from. It's just like, well, I didn't have to tell you I wanted this thing. You should have just knew, right? But that's when we start to realize like, well, other people are not mind readers, and I always tell people we have to teach people how we want to be loved, right? Because everybody loves a little differently. Everybody receives love a little differently. So I think for you, Jess, maybe letting your partner be aware, like, I'm going to tell you this right now, but do it tomorrow. Don't do it today. Like, do it tomorrow, next week when I'm not expecting it. Because for you, it probably feels disingenuous,
Yeah.
right? Whereas from the person's perspective, it's probably just like, I knew I wanted this, or I wanted to do this for you, but I didn't know this is what you wanted specifically. So they might be very genuine in that moment. But I think, again, yeah, I hate repeating this, but things are so simple if we're just transparent and tell people what we need, right? And then set the foundation for the expectation to be met, right? So for you, it's like if you're telling this person you need this in the moment and then they do it right after, it's like, well, why you didn't do this before? Well, they didn't do it before because maybe they didn't really know.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna take this. What I told them, Desiree, the flesh check.
Yes.
I'm gonna take this flesh check because I'm not gonna lie. I'm the type of person is like when I'm telling you, it's not because I need it necessarily that in that moment. I'm glad you gave me language for being okay with just saying, okay, I don't need this now, but I would like to see this. You know, maybe I need to preference it with like, I don't need this now, but I would like to see, because if you give it to me now, I don't think it's genuine. I want to make sure you hear me. And that way, if I feel like if you really heard me, I would see it down the line. Is that fair?
It is, but I think you could also add more language like I feel secure when you do this, or I feel more loved or understood. Because sometimes too, when we're talking to people and we're like, hey, I need this thing, they might think like, okay, you need it, but underlyingly, they don't know why, right? But if they understand like, okay, well, when I don't give her this thing, she feels less safe, she feels less secure in this relationship, she feels less heard, then maybe it'll give them some more orientation on how to give it to you or present it to you later on.
This is so good. This reminds me of during MMU this week. Dave mentioned he was talking to somebody who's doing a Q&A. You know how he does it, and he says, the lady, she was complaining about communication, right? And it's like, people don't understand me, or they don't understand me. It was like, well, is it their fault that they don't understand you? Like, how are you communicating? So literally, when you just said that, it brought me back to that moment, because I was like, "Ooh, Dave, that's so good." I wrote it. It was so good that I wrote it down. And so this is challenging me on, am I effectively communicating? I think what happens in relationships and in communication, Sia, and I think you can expound on this, is that we get so frustrated with the communication styles that we have to alter ourselves in order to seek to be have their understanding, versus just talking and saying, I told you this. But if they don't understand English, you might have to learn a little Spanish. So how would you encourage people that are in a communicative dysfunctional space in their relationship?
I think it also comes down to, because I'm hearing what you're saying, but I think it comes down to how people handle like conflict, right? So conflict resolution, right? Because there are some people where you might need space. You very well might need space to process what just happened, right? And there's some people who like, I need to nip this in the bud right now,
Yeah.
because if I don't, I'm gonna go crazy, right? That in itself is learning your partner. Again, some of those first, second date questions is just like, how do you handle conflict? Do you like space? Do you like to handle it right away? Can we come up with a method so that both of our needs are met? And there's something that I tell my clients and patients all the time: use safe words, right? A safe word would be like a neutral word that you say when things feel like too hot in the moment. And you might say something like umbrella. And umbrella means, I'm coming back in 30 minutes and we're going to talk about this. Pardon me. I'm coming back in 30 minutes. I'm going to talk about this. And instead of saying like, hey, I don't want to talk right now, because that makes someone feel shunned or it makes someone feel unseen. When you say something like umbrella, y'all both have already agreed, like umbrella means this is getting nowhere and we're going to come back and reconvene in 30 minutes, because now we'll both have space to one process, but then it also reassures the person that wants to nip it in the bud to say, look, I know this person's coming back. And now if in 30 minutes y'all still not in that space, do another 30 minutes. I'll just say, don't ever let 24 hours pass without you coming to some kind of resolution for the problem at hand. And we really need to take time to learn our partners, right? Because even if you're in a past relationship and you're like, oh, this worked with this person, well, this is a whole new person. And we can't have the expectation of our last relationship and our current relationship. It just doesn't work that way. And that's with anybody, friendships, familiar relationships, things like that.
Listen, in every relationship, romantic, friendship, whatever, Desiree will tell you, sis. I'm the one that says I need the space, and I don't. And then, okay, since you've already put me on the threshing board or whatever they call it,
The chopping block.
the chopping block. I find myself, Sia, saying I need space, and then space possibly turns into avoidance.
So it can be, right? Because you're avoiding something that's making you feel uncomfortable. And I mean, I'm not going to read you because I don't know your past like that, but sometimes we avoid things because we are fearing the neglect that might come with it if we address it, right? And so if I really address this thing, is it going to end up the way I want it to, right? If I really address this thing, is it going to have love lost? Right. And so there's also like a certain angst that comes with addressing hard things, which is why if you are someone with like an avoidant attachment, it's just like, I'd rather not talk about this, because if I talk about this, I'm going to start to spiral. And then on the opposite end, you have people with like anxious attachment, where they'd be like, I need to talk about this right now for the same reason, because if I don't talk about this, I'm going to spiral and think you're just going to leave me. And then I'm going to do anything and everything to keep clinging on to you. So again, it comes down to learning your partner, learning their I stand by 10 toes down, right? Attachment styles, because they explain so much.
Can we go through them? Like all the what are attachment styles, and what are the types of attachment styles?
Yeah, so basically attachment style is a theory that basically states that the way in which you grew up is the way in which you might communicate your feelings or how you show up in relationships. There's 4. So there's a secure attachment, which means that you're very secure in your relationship. You don't get too anxious. You don't be too avoidant. You're okay with some emotional distress because you know how to handle it. Then you might have anxious attachment. Anxious just means that as a child, maybe you became a people pleaser because a parent or a caregiver just wanted and requested so much from you. And then in this manner, you then developed into an individual who's just like, I have to give my partner everything and I have to make sure that I'm showing up authentically all the time, or even inauthentically all the time, to make sure that this person is pleased. And if God forbid I don't, I'm then going to overcompensate because I don't want to lose them. An avoidant attachment is more so a person who's avoiding any emotional situations. And maybe that's because a parent didn't really give the person a space to be vulnerable. Like if you had a bad day at school, the parent was just like, figure it out, right? Because we're not talking about any emotions. And so that carries on into your romantic relationships or friendships. A disorganized attachment is the mixture of the two, but we usually see that when there's some sort of trauma that has happened in childhood. So maybe witnessing domestic violence, or watching like a parent, like an alcoholic parent or caregiver. And those are the people that are more hot and cold. So maybe you're a little avoidant, a little anxious. You kind of just don't know what you're going to get. But again, it just depends on what has happened in your childhood. That's you.
Wait, because I was gonna ask you, can you have a mixture of the avoidant and anxious? Because I am a people pleaser. I have been a people pleaser, right? But I also get to these spaces where I'm like, please just leave me alone. This hurt. I know this hurts too much, or I feel myself rising somewhere that I just don't want to go. I need my space. I don't want to be. I don't want to be around you right now. This hurt. Your presence is hurting me. Like so. No, I'm so glad that you answered my question before I could ask. And so, in those attachment styles and being able to recognize them, what are some steps to get closer to the secured attachment style? What would you say?
I like to say having an ideal of what secure looks like, because it's really hard to attain something that you're not sure it should look like, right? So if it's like a TV character or maybe it's somebody in your life, understanding how they communicate with their partner, understanding how they deal with emotional distress, right? So let's say you come from like a toxic environment and nobody in your family, has a secure attachment. Well, getting some resources, reading books, looking at television shows where you see the secure attachment, you see how they handle conflict, and then honestly just emulating that. It's tough, right? Because there is no cookie cutter way to be 100% secure. Actually, I'm glad what you said earlier. Sometimes we show up differently in different areas of our life, right? So for example, myself, I have a very avoidant attachment had a very avoidant attachment with my family. It was actually probably even disorganized, to be honest. And then like in my first relationships, I was very anxiously attached, right? Because I honestly wanted to please like my partner. I didn't want the rejection that would have come with it. But in learning to be secure, I think I have a cheat code because I became a therapist, right? So it's just like, well, I know the way which to become secure. But for those of you who probably aren't in therapy, or are not at the point of therapy, or don't have a coach, or don't have people around your immediate environment that have secure attachment, I just say like reading books, the Bible is a great resource, right?
Yeah, come on now. Tell him again.
Okay.
See you.
I always compared Joseph, right? He had a very secure attachment with God, but he had his brothers, right, had a avoidant attachment with him, maybe even disorganized, because they casted him away. It's just like, we're not going to deal with this, right? So kind of just looking for Jesus and the Father, okay, although he's one and the same, but looking at all of the ways in which you can be secure and how you can emulate and just mimic those behaviors can help.
Sorry, girl.
You
Brad,
good.
the Brad Graydon.
The Brad Graydon.
Brad, he's walking out the building. That's our
Bye,
manager, our
Brad.
boss. No, you're fine. But no, that's so good. And I think it's also a segue into a question I had for you, because you recently posted something that I felt like you was trying to attack me on.
I did.
You know them carousels y'all love to do? It's a carousel. And it says, unhealed trauma can make you believe being alone is safer than being vulnerable. Put her back on the screen so I can see her face. I want And I felt attack on this because vulnerability. I feel like, and you can come for my neck. I don't care. It's just ask. The vulnerability. I feel like I've been in a place where I was too vulnerable, and then my vulnerability was mismanaged. So I'm afraid to be vulnerable, but I feel better holding stuff. Well, in the beginning, I feel better just holding stuff or just being reserved and allowing, because in my mind, I always say, I've said this before, and you can correct me on this. I've said this before where I can handle everybody else stuff. I know how to manage it. I know how to manage the gunk, the good, bad, and the ugly, right? But I'm not confident that others can manage my good, bad, and ugly.
And that's because of past experiences, right?
All right. That's
Okay.
where the trauma, I guess you would
Yeah.
say, because we'd already discovered that my attachment, my attachment style is a little traumatized.
Right. And so there's this fragmentation, right? Is when we, different parts of ourselves kind of break off into different, they get stuck, right, in experiences. And so that part of you, Jess, that got hurt, when you were too vulnerable, that part of you just keeps coming back up whenever you think about being too close to somebody else. Right. And I can't fault you for it, right? Because you're human.
Yeah.
And I would say that part of you that did get hurt when you had those experiences needs to reprocess and feel safe again. What does she need to feel safe? That I don't know, right? Only you would know that. Is it that because that experience let you feel like, okay, well, nobody's listening to me or nobody understands me? Did that experience leave you physically hurt? Right? Kind of going back, retracing and seeing like, okay, in that moment when I was vulnerable and I got hurt, what could have saved me emotionally so that I don't keep resurfacing this part of me whenever there is a new opportunity for me to be vulnerable, because vulnerability is beautiful, right? It would actually help. It would help mankind, honestly, if we were vulnerable, because we have this facade like everything has to be perfect. And sometimes when we close in on ourselves, some people can't learn from that experience. And not saying everybody has to know your story. It's just we make it seem as if we have to be perfect all the time, and we've been through some stuff, and your vulnerability can help somebody else. Your vulnerability with that other person could also help them be a little bit more vulnerable. But I definitely think just processing that part of you that was stuck and hurt the first time or second time or fifth time, and giving that part of you what she really needed in the moment that she didn't get.
That's so good. So is this what you're saying right now and how you're advising me right now? Is this an experience when we're talking about you being a trauma coach? Because the people throw this word trauma around. And I was watching another content creator and she was like, we misuse that word. And so can you explain the word trauma and then also what you do as a trauma coach? So if I was to hire you, what would that look like? So I need to know what trauma is and then what it would look like for me to hire you to help me through that.
Yeah, so I want to clarify real quick. So trauma, there are big T traumas and there's little T traumas. A big T trauma is something that really throws you off your track. Like you can't, maybe if you had a car accident, right? And the thought of going into that car again, you have a whole panic attack, right? That's a big T trauma. A little T trauma might look like, okay, maybe I got like or I had a performance and I messed up, and now I have a little bit of stage fright, but I'll get on the stage again, but I'm still having that anxiety. The big difference here is how well you regulate your emotion after that said incident, and if you can, right? And how triggered you become with any experience remotely similar to that experience. Right. So when we talk about trauma, we're talking about something, an event or an experience that dysregulates you emotionally, so much so that any proceeding experience becomes really hard to do. And I hope that kind of simplifies it, right? But we do overuse it, right?
Yeah.
We use it as like a colloquial term, like, oh yeah, that's traumatic. Well, is it? Are you
Yeah.
having flashbacks? Are
Yeah.
you trembling at the thought of it? Are you ruminating? Right. And I get it. We have a lot of terms that we use, but for some people, this is real life, right? Um, and then the second part of your question, like what it looks like. So I do something or several things. Like I'm a certified trauma coach therapist and coach, where I had to be trained for several months on how to really reprogram the brain. Because if you remember what I said earlier, our bodies are used to routine. Well, our brains are also like computers,
Yeah.
right? And so when you go through trauma, kind of think about that experience recoding your brain, right? And that experience kind of gets stuck. So the best example too is, let's say you walk into the library and like, oh, I'm about to pick me up like a really good fiction book.
Yeah.
Well, you go into the fiction section, you're like, what's this Scientology book doing here? You're like, this ain't
Yeah.
right. Right. Well, when trauma occurs, it's like a memory being placed in the wrong section of your brain. And
Mm.
so you then get triggered and your body reacts abnormally to whatever that said trigger is. So what I go and do is I go ahead and I help reprogram. All right. So our body and our minds are connected. So sometimes we need movement in order to help put that memory back into the right place and help process it more effectively. And then give words to that said trauma, because when we go through traumatic experiences, the Wernicke area in our brain gets shut down. That's the area in the brain that's responsible for words, right? So that's why sometimes when people go through things, they freeze, they can't talk, right? Because that area in your brain gets shut down. So what I'm doing is I'm going in, safe place. Sometimes it takes years for us to kind of move through that. Sometimes months. It really just depends on how fast your brain wants to reprocess. Goes in, moves that trauma memory back into the right place, gives it more expression, love, safety, so that now when you have anything that triggers it, it feels okay. Like, hey, I could talk about this and not feel like the walls are closing in on me.
That's so good. I loved how you explained that. I was gonna let you go, but this is another word that I think that I know I use it. I use it a lot. Right? Trigger.
Mm.
Yeah. So our relationship with our triggers invites the recollection of trauma. This is my interpretation. Just because
Mhm.
sometimes I think I'm smart in
You
these certain
are.
areas, just make connecting
Mm.
dots and stuff. So if that sounded smart to you, clock it.
Clock.
But no, like our relation, what does it, how our relationship is with our triggers, in my mind, can help or harm the process of trying to declutter the trauma or detach from the trauma. Would you
Mhm.
agree with that? And what is the healthy relationship? I'm using quotation because I don't know if I'm using the right language. Relationship with our triggers look like, and when we say, "Oh, that's trigger me," just trigger me. I don't think we should just be saying that out of the wild. We say stuff that we really don't mean. But true, honest to God triggers. What does that relationship? Because the thing still happened. How should I respond to, or what ways do I need to make it to where I'm responding to it in a healthy manner?
Um, that's a good question, right? I honestly think I never heard anyone say like a healthy relationship with a trigger, but I do think it's an appropriate term. It could be an appropriate term to use, because technically what you're doing is you're desensitizing your emotion to that said trigger, which then would make it healthy, right? So like I'll put myself back on, the spotlight. I had for a little bit, I had an unhealthy, well, this is for anybody, but like a gunshot, right? Because I've had a friend get shot right next to me, right? And for a while, when I would hear like a gunshot, my body would freeze. It wasn't until I went through my own therapy, like it's not something I could do on myself, where I was able to have a healthier relationship with a trigger, because she made me understand that in that moment, I'm still safe. I can reorientate myself to where I am in proximity to my now versus what was happening back then. So I do think it's possible to have a healthy trigger, or a healthy relationship with a trigger. I just I think it takes some time to get there. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Yeah.
Right? Because a trigger is going to still be a trigger. It's just your response to it. Like, are you going to clam up? Are you going to have a flashback of what has happened in the past? Or are you going to be able to just acknowledge, like, oh, yeah, that has happened. But in the moment, I'm safe. I'm fine. Because that's what the body really requires, is just safety.
That's so good. And I love how she just keeps using this word safe, because this is the safe space. And so I just love that word, because some people, like, I've been asked the questions like, all I've been trying to figure out is I just want to be safe. That's my goal. I want to be safe in relationships. I want to be safe in my environments. I want to be safe, and it doesn't mean that it's physical harm, but more so emotionally for me. I want to be able to be vulnerable. I want to be able to be transparent. I want to be able to be myself, right? And safety for me is me being able to show up as me and being accepted. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm learning that. And not saying that you gotta like me, but just be like, oh, okay, that's her, and not discredit me for being me. You get what I'm saying? So I'm learning what that safe word means for me, and what the safe space looks like for me personally. Desiree, I want to check in with you, sis.
I'm good.
You can turn the
I know
camera
I
back on you. You
I
figured
can.
that out this
I
time.
did. Gosh, I did,
Let me
Jessica.
think about it.
You are so correct. Here we
Let
go.
me think about it.
Yes. Oh, hold on. Here we go. So, one thing I think I was thinking about as you guys were talking was more so the attachment styles, and just kind of finding myself in that space, because I'm definitely in a season of healing and growing, and I do know that the relationship that I have with myself and people is definitely avoidant, only because because of a lot of my I'm an only kid, but also it was just it was tough. So I just stayed to myself a lot. So as I've gotten older, and I just recognize that I avoid a lot of confrontations and conversations that that are hard because of because of the lack of sometimes conversations with my mom, right? So in this season, I'm learning, and I'm growing, and I'm being challenged. I'm being stretched in good ways, you know what I'm saying? But the stretching, I can feel it, but I know that it's really the Lord bringing those things up to surface so that I can work on them, so I can show up better in relationships, and also so that I can have language to articulate the things that I need in relationships too. Because before, I really didn't. I just kind of allow people to I don't know, kind of treat me a certain way, but I wouldn't say anything about it. I would just go in my feelings, and not say anything. So I think he's teaching me how to giving me language to teach me the things that I need, and being okay with expressing those, and knowing that some conflict is good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's been good. So I appreciate you, Miss Sia, for coming through today and blessing the people.
She showed blessing the people, honey. She definitely blessed me, because I saw this conversation going multiple ways, right? And the relational aspect can go, like I said, to parenthood, to intimacy, or whatever. And she said something earlier that really struck me, and it's the fact that however you show up in one relationship, 9 times out of 10 you're gonna show up in another one, right? The way I show up with my mom and my dad, it's going to show up into my intimate relationship. It's going to show up in my friendships. Some part of it or some form of it, just because it's a different type of relationship, I'm still the one that's the constant, right? And so I think that was the big takeaway for me in that portion of the conversation, because it's like, all right, it's almost like when we expect people to change, and we keep dealing with the same thing over and over and over again, but we're not realizing we're the one that's in the situation over and over and over again. It's almost like a flesh check, like a real life flesh check is like, okay, so you continuously have this problem, so where do you fit in the problem? Like, what part of the equation of the problem are you in? And so I needed this conversation because, baby, she checked me real good a few times, okay? But, Sia, this is the part of the conversation that we just lend to you. We like to give our guests the final say. If there is anything that you want to clear up or anything that you want to expound upon, even anything that you came in with your heart, if God has led you to say something, this is your time to do it.
Okay. I mean, there is so much I could say, right? But what I will say is a lot of times people think like healing is like a one and done thing. And it's not, right? It's actually ongoing. So for the simple fact that we have new experiences every day, we encounter new people, we look at things a little differently, and our brains are so intricate, so much so that sometimes it will rewire itself, but then create a new problem for us. And so healing is just like an ongoing thing that we should really be open to. I like what Desiree said a little bit earlier. She said being uncomfortable. And I want everybody to kind of resonate with that, right? Because you do have to be uncomfortable to grow. Nobody grows in comfort, right? And so if you're really challenging yourself to overcome some trauma or get into better relationships, you have to deal with being uncomfortable first. Because if you're going to keep doing the same thing, like they say, you get the same results, right? It's not until you make even a small shift to say like, okay, I'm going to do a little bit more work on me, or I'm going to have more uncomfortable conversations so that I can grow in this relationship or even grow within myself. I think that's what's really important. And then I'm going to also tie in this part here. A lot of times being uncomfortable means that we have to submit ourselves, right? Submit ourselves to God, submit our experiences to God too, right? Because a lot of times we try to work things out in our own strength. And so giving it to God helps. But then also I feel like God will place the right people in your life. So whether it's a coach, a therapist, a friend, that will help move you through it. So no shade, right? But isolation is not always the answer, right? Be okay with being a little bit more vulnerable so that God can increase, I guess, the people around you to help so they can see you, right? Because you have to be vulnerable to be seen. So, yeah.
You have to be vulnerable to be seen. Clock it. See, let me tell you something. Sia knows her stuff. She was able to answer every question with ease. Okay, so we're definitely gonna have to have her back because we probably got some more trauma questions. Maybe we need to do a live or something. Sia, we got to plan something.
I got you.
I definitely enjoyed you, sis. Desiree. Did you learn something? Did she learn you something?
I got notes.
Sia, it's been a blessing to have you here. And again, happy Mother's Day. Mother's Day is actually in Mental Health Awareness Month, so we are celebrating that. We acknowledge that. Last year we did a whole month of it. I think it about wore me and Desiree out, so we couldn't do that again. So Sia was enough. We felt like we were going to therapy every week, and I don't think we were ready for that. But make sure you take care of yourselves. Moms, make sure you take care of yourselves. You deserve a great, healthy relationship with others, but you definitely deserve a great, healthy relationship with yourselves. So in other words, have a great week. Love on you. Until next time, until next week, remember, life could be much more simple if you just ask.
What's up, you guys? We hope you've enjoyed that conversation, but make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And hit that notification so you don't miss an episode. We'll see you next Thursday.